What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more live streams for you guys. We have got so much to get through. We saw first sighting of Frank Ball yesterday, first sighting of Vuskovic and Mohamed Kudus as well, which we're going to get into a bit of a tactical first insight into Frank's first game. We've got Tottenham updates, we've got Gibbs-White updates. How are we doing today?
Look, we're all very excited after the first game. A win and a clean sheet, and Vuskovic was the talk of the town yesterday. But not great news on Gibbs-White, which we'll get into.
Yeah, and let's start off with that, because The Athletic are reporting this morning that Gibbs-White is expected to be part of the Forest squad that flies to Portugal for a pre-season training camp next week. Beyond that, the future does remain uncertain. The midfielder has trained as usual since returning to the club last Monday. He has no conflict with Nuno nor his teammates, despite the ongoing speculation around the Tottenham Hotspur transfer. It doesn't make great reading.
No, but I don't think he's got no reason to have any beef with Nuno. It's not him blocking the transfer. It's Marinakis, and it's not like Forest has done anything wrong here to him. He's obviously had a brilliant time there, but he feels like he wants a new challenge, a team in the Champions League, a bigger team. Maybe he's got some. I don't know if he's got some mates there as well at Tottenham who probably want to play with. So I understand he wants to end this amicably. He doesn't want to leave through the back door with a bitter taste in the mouth with the Forest fans. So I think he's being professional. He's doing everything right. But it's whether Forest can ultimately block this deal completely or whether they're just delaying the inevitable. Time will obviously tell on that one. The fact that he's set to go on the tour is not great news. It's not wholly surprising. I was hoping we could stop him going on this tour and we can get this deal done. And I guess that could still happen. But the news that he is at the moment set to go on the tour is obviously a bit of a blow, because it just means it's going to be delayed even longer, this deal. And it means Forest are playing a hardball as much as possible. We've heard obviously little rumours that people are behind the scenes are confident this deal will be done and even might be done sooner rather than later. But the fact that they're going to be taking him on the tour is an indication of Forest basically saying we ain't backing down here.
Yeah, I just want to see what the extent of this Forest tour is and how many games and stuff that they got, how long they're going to be out there for. So they play 2 games in Portugal, and they're there for the next 10 days. But that doesn't stop him leaving a day or two, however long, into the tour. We've seen players go on tour before and leave halfway through or a certain amount through to go and pursue a transfer. Is this another way of Marinakis trying to scare Tottenham and trying to squeeze a bit more money out of them? I don't know, but I do still think this deal's going to go through. Call me crazy, but I do.
I don't think you're crazy. I think that's the common consensus at the moment, that the deal will still happen and they're just delaying it.
Yeah, but they were saying like at the back end of last week that Morgan Gibbs-White wants this wrapped up before the team fly out on Monday. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
No, and that's just, again, Forest and Marinakis not giving up without a fight. And while he's a Forest player and while he's contracted to them, he will act professionally and they'll take him on the tour. There's no reason for them to not, unless they believe that there's no way of winning this kind of legal dispute that they have now, or they don't think they'll get the money from Tottenham that Marinakis has kind of been demanding, or they're going to be backing down from this legal dispute. It doesn't seem like any of those things are true. So at the moment, while it's all being sorted out, that's what's going to happen. He's going to continue to be a Forest player and he's going to be part of the team. And it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, as Tottenham fans, it's frustrating. We had the Here We Go now, 10 days ago?
Yeah.
So the fact that we're 10 days after that and we're talking about him going on tour and the delays, we want him part of the team. We want him part of our tour in a week's time. 10 days time, that is the frustration. But we always heard from literally the day after this deal was agreed that with this legal proceedings, it's going to delay it, but it won't stop it. And maybe this is what the delay looks like. It's just, at the moment we're 10 days into it and it might drag on for a bit longer, but I'm confident it'll get done in the end.
But how much longer can it actually drag out for until we do just move on?
I don't know. It depends how confident we are.
Because like, if this is going to go right down to the wire, literally like to the last few days of the window, do we still go for it, or do we go and try and move on to other targets like pretty soon to get them in, so they can count, have a pre-season behind them, be acclimatized to the way Frank likes to play and everything like that.
Again, it depends how confident we are of winning this court case, or whatever. I don't know if it's going to court or whatever it is, this dispute. If we think that Forest really have no grounds and they're just dragging their feet, and at the end of the day, whatever happens, we're pretty certain that Gibbs-White, the deal will come off, even if we have to wait till late in the window. If we're very, very confident behind the scenes, there's no reason why it shouldn't happen, then you wait. If it's 50-50 or it's in the balance, I think you move on quickly, if that's how you feel. Depends how Tottenham see it in the background. If they're consulting experts and they're saying, look, Forest have a case here, and this case is 50-50. If you go down to the wire, this could go against you. Then I think we should move on already, if that's the case. But if the experts are saying, look, the decision is going to be made late in the window, but you'll win, but all you have to do is wait, then wait.
What's the end goal here? What's the end game here for Marinakis? If he
money,
like how? Yeah, I know. How much money is the end game? How much does he want?
Who knows?
Like
70 maybe.
We've heard that Levy or Tottenham have been willing to put in a bit of extra few million to push this deal along. Nothing seems to be getting pushed along. I mean, from what we heard, with inside Spurs, they're fairly confident that this is going to go through. We don't really know the feeling inside Nottingham Forest and what they're feeling on the deal. It's just like such a long, drawn-out saga, and for the first time, it's probably not our fault. Usually, it is our fault for this long, drawn-out saga, but just get it done, man. Like I said before,
there's nothing Tottenham can do about just getting it done. What can they do?
I know,
yeah.
But like I said a week ago, this ain't doing us any favours. It ain't doing Gibbs-White any favours. It's not doing Nottingham Forest any favours. So just get this deal moved along. I don't know what they're waiting for.
Well, we're talking to Tottenham fans. We're Tottenham fans. Obviously, we want this deal to move along.
And I'm sure the majority of Forest fan wants it moved along as well.
I think a few of them do, but if there's any hope that they can keep him, maybe they don't. Or I don't know exactly how they're all feeling. But obviously, if he wants out, then you're best getting the money and moving on, 100%. But
that's what the general consensus is.
But Marinakis feels they're not getting fair value, albeit there is a release clause in there. So he's trying to get that more money, and he's trying to use this legal issue. And I'm sure if you're a Forest fan as well, and if Forest are right and we have done something wrong or whatever, then I think that they'll feel they're within their right to take issue with it and either to get that more bit of money out of Tottenham instead of allowing this to go through without them having any say. If there has been any wrongdoing, obviously I don't know. If there hasn't been, this is all a waste of time and there's just delay. They're just delaying it. And then in that case, I agree with you. But if there is wrongdoing in some capacity and they do have a case, then I think it's probably a bit different. But I've got a feeling that they might not have a legal case. They might kind of know we've done wrong in a way because we might have spoken to him before or whatever, but I really highly doubt they got any proof that of that wrongdoing, and I think it probably will land on Tottenham's side, this legal dispute. That's my feeling, but obviously I don't know much, but that's the feeling I get when I'm thinking about what kind of evidence Forest could have against Tottenham. So whether this whole legal dispute benefits Forest in any way, I would think unlikely, but if they have a case, then it will.
Why doesn't Marinakis just get this deal done and then move on to the next carnage moment that he's going to produce? Like literally, it's never ending with this guy, from PGMOL to the Premier League to UEFA to berating Nuno on the pitch and now to this. I mean, look, it will flare up again with Marinakis. Don't get that twisted. It'll probably happen next week with their next transfer or something like that with a player that you don't want to sell. So this whole thing is just so frustrating. Let's just hope Nottingham Forest can push this over the line at some point. But yeah, I do genuinely feel like from Forest fans, they're probably as fed up and frustrated as Spurs fans are on this.
Yes and no. Obviously, we're probably more frustrated because we're the ones trying to poach their best player, and we've
But
got
they
the
need to
deal
move
done.
on as well.
Of course, but that's their best player they're losing, and I'm sure in a perfect world they don't want to lose him. So, in a scenario where it doesn't happen and he ends up staying, like I don't think, as I said, he's the kind of character who's going to down tools or stop playing like to his best. He's going to be professional. So if they can keep him for another year, I'm not sure too many Forest fans are going to complain about that.
Yeah, but you know, another year and his value dramatically drops as well with going into the last year of his contract. So if he's not
From
signed,
60 million,
huh?
from 60,
I think it goes down from 60
no,
million. Yeah.
dramatically.
I think it will go to like 40, 45, something like that,
Yeah,
going into his
exactly.
last year. Yeah, which is, you know, a significant drop from 60, even though they think he's worth a lot more than 60. So I think from a Nottingham Forest perspective, it's probably best to get him out now as well, in terms of getting the most kind of value on the player and move on, get another target in, and everyone can just move on with their lives, like I keep saying.
I know, but if from Forest fans' perspective, do they have a better chance of getting Europe next season if Gibbs-White is there or is not? Obviously, depending on who you replace him with.
Yeah.
And is that, you know, that decrease in value, could you make that up in getting a European spot? Maybe that's how they're seeing it.
I don't know if they are, because the most part is just get this deal done. Just if he wants to leave, let him go. Like if a player wants to leave, surely like fans wouldn't like hang the club to a hill saying like, you know, you need to keep him at the club. Like if he wants to leave, he wants to leave, and I think that's where Forest fans are at with it.
I know, but I think we're looking at it too much from a Tottenham fan's perspective. Obviously, we want this done, but Forest don't want to seem to like their best players are being poached by their rivals. And that's the perception here. And as much as, you know, he just wants to leave to get it done, but no, they want it done in the right way, I'm sure. They don't want it just done underhanded. But look, at the end of the day, we've done nothing wrong. We've activated a release clause. So they can be upset about it, but there's only so much. But I can understand. I don't think Forest fans are like desperate to see this transfer go through. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying desperate, but I'm saying like if he wants to go, like for instance, Cuti Romero, right? If he really wants to go this summer, then he can go with my blessing. Like just leave the club if you don't want to be here. What's the point of having a player that you don't want at your club?
Okay, I understand that, but for the right price, isn't it? We're not going to sell him for any price.
It's a release clause.
I understand that. No, I understand that, but they're not feeling it's a fair price, and they're feeling there's been some breach of confidentiality. It's not been done in the right way. If Romero was to leave, we want it done in the right way, don't we?
Of course, so everyone in an ideal world, you want it done in the right way, but I would prefer to get a bit less value than to have a player that doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, depends on how much less, but yeah, of course. But you want it. You're not going to accept a fee which you don't think is the value of Romero or a good value, and that's what Forest are trying to get, or is close to, because this release clause, obviously, they believe is less than what he's worth, but it's a release clause. So I think there's nothing they can really do in the end, but they want a better value. They're trying to get more money. So I don't think Forest fans will be upset with Marinakis trying to get more money for him.
Yeah, but look, like I said, you see it all around social media, and you know, Wolfie from Nottingham Forest Fan TV as well. Like, I think everyone's just so frustrated with this and just wants it over one way or another, whether he's staying or whether he's going. Just someone make that decision so everyone can just move on. But look, that is the Morgan Gibbs-White situation at this moment in time. Let's move on to some other topics for a Tottenham update. First and foremost, some confirmed deals. We are looking at Alfie Dorrington. He has left and rejoined Scottish Premier League side Aberdeen on loan to the 25-26 season. So, yeah, we wish him the best of luck.
And by all accounts, he had a decent loan spell last time out. So, yeah, good luck to him. Obviously, it's a shame we're not going to see him in pre-season or anything like that. But at the end of the day, we saw Vuskovic yesterday, what a start he had. You got Phillips there, you got Takai in. He's never going to get a look in. So, yeah, best of luck, and let's hope he has a good season.
Yeah, it's not one that surprises me, to be honest. I think he had a fairly good loan spell second half of the season last year at Aberdeen, but he came back for pre-season and was straight away playing for the under-21s in the pre-season game. So it kind of makes sense of where the club see him right now. So like he wasn't even training with the first team or anything like he has done in the past. Next up is Josh Keeley. That's an official deal as well. It says we've reached an agreement with League One side Luton for the transfer of Josh Keeley, which is believed to be around £1 million with a sell-on fee, but not a buyback option.
Yeah, which is a bit disappointing because I would like one day if he did reach that potential that we hope he does reach, we could benefit from that. But it seems as though might not be the case, depending on obviously how much this release clause is, this sell-on fee is, which means if we go to sign him, then obviously we have that in the contract, so we probably take that off the value of the player. So there's that, but it is a bit of a shame that it's come to this, because he's been super exciting over the last couple of seasons, especially last season at Orient. So everyone was kind of getting excited about what the future holds for him. But yeah, I wonder, it doesn't look like he'll ever play for Tottenham. We'll never see him in a Tottenham show, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. And I'm a massive fan of Josh Keeley. Followed him closely last year at Leyton Orient. Loved what I was seeing from him. I guess the positive is, the sell-on fee, because he could go for a decent sized amount, and I do think he'll end up in the Premier League, playing in the Premier League one day. But if the time comes when he is to go, and we need a keeper at that moment in time, we'll be able to get him cheaper than anyone else. So that's a positive. Let's move on and talk about Richarlison, because a lot was made out of Richarlison in terms of why he wasn't in the squad yesterday. Frank did speak about him after the game and said, yeah, we're just working closely with him, and he's going to be playing next weekend. And in terms of that, David Heitner says Richarlison is understood to be keen on staying at Spurs. Only if something exceptional showed up, he would consider leaving, which is, a bit of a weird one. I thought that after the friendly yesterday when he wasn't in the squad, I did think something was in the pipeline there, but it doesn't seem so.
Yeah, the term Frank used yesterday was, we're building him up. Now, obviously, if you read into that, you would think it's because of the injuries he's had. They want him to make sure that when he's fit, he stays fit, which Ange has been on record many times saying that, hasn't he? That we want to make sure Richie gets fit, he stays fit. Unfortunately, it's not been the case, and we failed. Ange's team failed at doing that, because whenever he got fit, he seemed to always pick up an injury. And apart from the latter stage of last season and a spell like between was it November to January or February in Ange's first season, he really didn't have any kind of extended period where he was fit. So they're saying that, but they're saying they want to build him up, but has he come into the season injured again? Has he got a problem? Has he got a niggle or anything like that? Because that's another concern if he's not ready to, from pre-season, because he didn't get injured at the back end of last season that I remember. I don't know what's happened over the summer. Maybe something did happen and he did pick up an injury or something. But if he's been fully fit over the summer, then why do you have to leave him out of the first squad to build him up? That doesn't make too much sense to me. Why can't he be on the bench or something? That doesn't make sense.
But he did say he's going to be playing next week.
Yeah, next week. Okay, but why not this week?
There must have been some fitness issues.
Yeah, that's a concern if there was.
Of course, it's a concern.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Why can't this guy stay fit? If there was another fitness concern without us even playing a game over the summer, why is that happening again? And obviously, these are the main issues why we want to sell him, because we can't seem to keep him fit. And I guess we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I think if you're Richarlison, I'm not surprised he wants to stay, because I don't think he's getting anywhere better than Tottenham. I think he's well liked here by probably everyone. I think the fans like him. As much as we all kind of want him to leave, we do like him. I think he's probably a very popular member of the dressing room. You saw that social media video that they posted, who did you miss over the summer? And a few people said Richarlison. So I think he's quite well liked in the dressing room. And he is a good player when he's fit. But that's obviously the big issue. We can't keep him fit. But as I'm saying, if you're Richarlison, it doesn't surprise me that he wants to stay and he would only want to move if either he feels like there's no future at Tottenham or there's a real great opportunity for him. That's going to be a big question mark, because I think Frank, he mentioned him in his press conference before the game as well, saying he's a good striker. He made sure to specifically mention him, saying he's a good player, good striker as well, and could be part of the team. So as much as we want him to leave, nothing's for certain.
Yeah, but yeah, I just thought that there was something a bit further along the line when we saw him not in the squad pre-game. If there has been an injury and a niggle, then it probably even more confirms in all our minds that he probably has to leave this summer. But if the bids are going to come in, we don't know. I just this whole 55 million thing is an absolute farce, to be honest. It's never going to happen. If Spurs are holding anyone to 55 million, then we may as well just get ready to suffer with Richarlison's injuries all next season as well.
Yeah, he ain't going. He's staying if we're demanding 55 million, 100%. And that's the reality. But clearly, if it is true that Frank's saying, "Oh, we're building him up and stuff," maybe they do have a specific plan for him, and maybe they're confident they can keep him fit. We'll have to wait and see how he sees it. Obviously, I was watching his embargo press conference. He was talking about injuries to the squad, and he said he's spoken to a lot of the staff around, and he's trying to understand what happened and getting opinions and understanding where mistakes were made and all that kind of stuff. So if he's done that work, and maybe he feels that he can put plans in place to keep Richarlison fit. We'll have to wait and see on that front. Obviously, as fans, from what we've seen from him, we can't be confident of that. But we're not inside the club, are we? So maybe they are.
Next up, we're going to talk about João Palhinha. Christian Falk says that Tottenham could now accelerate talks to sign João Palhinha. Bayern Munich are continuing to reduce his price to facilitate selling the midfielder. João Palhinha is now available for 25 to 30 million euros. A really good price for someone, Prem proven, ready, really good player. And I think he's someone that would add a lot of experience to the team as well.
Yeah, and I think it would be a good deal. It would be a good signing. I think it would be a pretty cost-effective deal. Someone who knows the Premier League. I think a midfielder, different kind of profile midfielder that we don't really have, a real destroyer in that middle. But the only worry I would have is, again, he's not really like a fantastic passer. I'm not saying him himself is a bad passer. I'm just saying he doesn't add great passing ability to the midfield, which we are missing, and that is something that I'm quite keen on getting in. I'm not going to say just because of that I don't want him, because I would be really excited if Palhinha came in and he would just add that bit of steelness, strength, aggression in that midfield. Like, it would up it to a different level. Like, he's better defensively probably than all our midfielders, so that is an element he improves. But the only thing I'd say is, when it comes to passing ability, still doesn't address that issue, but that's fine. It doesn't. Not every signing has to address every issue.
Yeah, I think it'd be a brilliant signing. Would I want him as my first choice to bring in? Probably not. But I do think he would be a really good signing for the club. There's talks about Adam Wharton and these kind of players. Obviously, I prefer someone like him to come in. But João Palhinha, at the age of 30, is like a kind of stopgap number 6 to come in for the next couple of years to perform at a really high level. Something that I think he comes in and he's already probably the most aggressive midfielder that we have at the club, most defensively minded midfielder that we have in the club, and he'll make us a lot more solid to play against, that's for sure. Another player that we've been linked with is called Nelson Weeper. Sebastian Vidal just saying that Tottenham are interested in Nelson Weeper, 20-year-old striker from Germany, and currently playing at Mainz. You know much about him?
No, I don't. I've come to learn Sebastian Vidal isn't the most reliable.
Really?
For sure, because every report he does seems to not happen. So when we first came on this, I was like, okay, who is this guy? He's reporting all this news, and none of it seems to happen. So I don't know this guy. Obviously, we know bringing in a striker probably depends on Richarlison leaving, which at the moment is not imminent. So I'm not going to think we're going to sign a striker just yet. And this is why I think I don't think we sign a striker until Richarlison leaves, or unless there's a real deal like imminent. Because I think there's a chance Frank will like him and he might want to keep him.
with this Weeper guy, apparently Arsenal have been linked with him in the last few days as
we
well.
have to get him then.
So anything to get one over of them, I'm down. And last but not least, just a quick one on Arnaud Calumwendo, as Loic Tanzi says that Tottenham have indeed started discussions with Rennes for Calumwendo, but so far negotiations haven't progressed further, and now Villarreal are showing interest to explore the possibility of a transfer. Yeah, I mean, when the Calumwendo links first came out, we were all like, all right, yeah, this guy's coming, but it doesn't seem that way.
No, though that news died down very quickly. Again, this what's the journalist's name who reported this?
Loic Tanzi.
Yeah, another guy who doesn't seem to be very reliable.
He used to be, though.
He like reported the Esteve stuff, which was poured cold water very quickly, and he was the first one to report this. No one else has, and it's gone very quiet. So again, maybe it's one we revisit if Richarlison was to leave, but I don't think right now. If Villarreal are interested, I don't think we're going to be making a bid anytime soon.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But that is that for the Tottenham update and the transfer speculation. Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we brought to you today. We're going to move on and we're going to start focusing on the game, which was Tottenham 2, Reading 0, Tottenham 2 in our first preseason, our first look at Frank Ball. And yeah, let's get into the player ratings for the game. And so we got 22 players to get through.
Yeah.
Different 11s in both halves. And first player that we're going to look at is Antonin Kinski. Sim gave him a 7. I gave him a 6. I think in terms from like pure goalkeeping, didn't really have that much to do. I don't know if he made one save or not, but he didn't make any difficult saves, that's for sure. What was most impressive about him was his ability to build up attacks from the back. I thought his long-range kicking was really impressive. And yeah, he was just decent from that aspect.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm judging him on. He was a real part of our build-up play, I felt. And he was almost at times like another outfield player in our build-up, which is kind of what Frank clearly demands and wants. There was one dodgy moment with his goalkeeping. A set piece came in and he kind of hesitated, failed to punch the ball when he came for it, and it actually nearly led to us conceding. But apart from that, he was pretty, untested, didn't have to do much. He played one absolutely beautiful ping to Porro. I think it was off the back of a set piece, and it set us up on a really good attack. And I think he was doing that quite a lot, like some really good drilled passes. I think his technique on his passing just night and day ahead of Vicario. But there was that moment from the set piece, which, Vicario didn't have.
Pedro Porro up next. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. Yeah, I thought he was one of the standout performers in the first half for sure. Right-hand side, I think a lot seemed to come through him like we saw last season. His ball-playing ability is second to none in the squad, and I think that was on show. Sitting a little bit deeper than a doggy just before the halfway line, but still able to get up and down that right-hand side. He took one whack to the leg where, it could have easily been a sending off if VAR was involved. It wasn't. He got a booking. But yeah, he was causing a nuisance for himself pretty much all throughout that 45 minutes. And I guess like the most impressive thing is just the way he can just ping a ball over the top from deep.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Obviously, we actually saw it quite a bit in the back end of last season, didn't we, in that Europa League run? It happened a few times. And I think in his new position now with Frank, kind of tucked in a bit, kind of almost forming a back three when we're in possession. He's kind of the deeper fullback, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of those long-range passes. And obviously, he'll have those moments, which he had yesterday, where he was getting up, and actually, when he got the ball, he delivered it early. Didn't try to get to the byline or get too far forward. He gets kind of in that half space, and he looks up and tries to deliver the ball. And with his quality, he's got that ability to pick out a man. Nearly got an assist. Brilliant left-footed cross to the back post. Romero heading it wide. Should have really buried that. So he's got the quality there. It might take a bit of getting used to this new role, but I think good start.
Yeah. Cuti Romero up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Yeah, look, I think he dealt with the majority that came his way. I don't think He looked like too much under pressure at moments in the first 45 minutes. Was a threat from set piece, or was a threat offensively where he probably should have put the ball in the back of the net, or at least got it on target. And if you get it on target, there's probably a good chance that does go in. But yeah, I mean, he just went through 45 with minimal fuss, really.
I think he's played really well. Passing, fantastic. We all know how good he is with those passes in between the lines. He was actually one of the only ones who we tried these little dinks over the top of the Reading defence quite a few times, and he was the only one who seemed to be able to pull it off. So that was obviously impressive. We know how good his passing range is, and yeah, that's something obviously that sets him apart from our other centre-back options. I thought defensively, really solid. The Reading striker pretty much was in his pocket the whole game. So very accomplished.
Yeah, and Kevin Danso up next as well. Simon gives him an 8. I gave him a 6. Again, I thought did really well in his first outing under Frank on the left-hand side of the pair. And I actually felt like a lot of the times that we were building out from the back came from Kevin Danso, and I thought he did a good kind of role from that aspect. And again, like from a defensive capability, aggressive, and nothing really got past him.
Yeah, it was quite interesting with this one. I felt like Danso played obviously the more aggressor, and Romero was a bit more reserved in the partnership. Danso, we know he's very comfortable taking the ball, running into the space, committing players. He's not scared to be on the ball and look for the space. So that's obviously was really good from him. Passing seemed a bit less haphazard, I would say. Kept it a lot simpler. Was very comfortable. So yeah, I think it was a really top performance from Danso.
Destiny Udogie, 8 all round for Destiny, and yeah, I thought he was our standout performer out on that left-hand side, looking sharp, looking fit, looking on it, causing a lot of problems down that left-hand side. Towards the end, started to have some really good link-up play with Mikey Moore as well. And I just felt like he was a constant threat and a constant nuisance for the Reading backline.
Yeah, and I think looked a lot more comfortable getting wider on that left-hand side. I thought definitely suited him more than maybe inverting and underlapping. I think it was kind of Mikey Moore was kind of tucked inside. He actually had developing decent rapport with Mikey Moore, I felt, on that left-hand side, so that was really positive. And yeah, whenever he seemed to see quite a bit of the ball. Whenever he got it, he was always just going down the line, and he was hard to stop. And I think Reading really struggled to stop him. And I think he looked a lot more comfortable, almost like a wing back. I felt yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. Bentancur up next, 7s all round for Lolo, and I thought out of the midfielders in the first half, I thought he was the most impressive one. All action display, really. He was winning the ball back quite a number of times, trying to drive the team forward, kind of just keep things ticking along as well in the middle of the park. And he was kind of quite deep alongside Papa Matasar in a double pivot. And I thought he was definitely the more impressive of the two.
Yeah, I think, he was the one. Looked a lot more confident on the ball. I think defensively he was decent. Didn't see too many times he was able to, do his trademark kind of carries up the pitch and when he nicks the ball past a player and runs the other way. Saw it once or twice, but not too many times. He was the one tasked with maybe passing the ball, spraying it side to side a bit more, which he did to kind of
mix. Dictating the tempo a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think, I would say with mixed results, I don't think it was perfect every time, but it was good. It was sometimes good, sometimes kind of average. I think him and Sarr were decent together, nothing too spectacular. Obviously, haven't played in a double pivot together too often, if memory serves you right. Obviously, did with Basuma quite a bit at back end of last season. So yeah, I thought it was decent.
And Pape Matasar, 6s all round for Pape. And yeah, look, again, I think Pape was decent. Nothing too spectacular. Maybe should have scored, or he had one chance, didn't he, in the first half where he could have put it in the back of the net and put from a point blank range. But yeah, I thought he was full of running, but not too much quality.
Yeah, I think his passing range wasn't quite there. I think he obviously worked very hard. and performed a good partnership with Bentancur, but I thought his passing was a bit sloppy, to be honest, and especially when he was asked to do more adventurous stuff.
Yeah. Alfie Devine up next. 6s all round for Alfie. Obviously, the big chance that we did get in the first half did come from a great ball from Alfie, and I thought he was trying his best to be creative, but there were moments in the game, large portions of the game in the first half, where I thought he was going missing a little bit. So, yeah, look, I expect more from Alfie because of what we saw in the pre-season last year, so I think we will see that. And I think we'll see him grow a bit more once he starts to learn the role. But, you know, he was in a pure number 10 position and kind of playing the Damsgaard role, as you like. And, yeah, I think he did well in moments, but then he kind of went missing in other moments.
Agreed. I think when it came to positioning and understanding the role, I think that was quite positive. I think he kind of understood what he needed to do and was taking up some really good positions, which I thought Reading was struggling to pick him up. And obviously, he nearly got an assist with a really good in-swinging cross, which Solanke maybe should have scored from. And I think he was taking up good positions. I think what he needs to maybe adjust or adapt to is making quicker decisions, being stronger on the ball, making sure he's not so easy to knock off the ball. And I think sometimes he needs to know what he's going to do with it before he receives it. I think sometimes he gets the ball and then he decides. And by that kind of point, it's a bit too late. And is already surrounded and already losing the ball. So I think definitely some adjustments to be made, but I think there were some positives there as well.
Brennan Johnson, Sim gives him a 4, I gave him a 5. He just gets a little bit of leeway from me just because it's his first game back and he did score the winner in Bilbao. So,
how long does he get an extra point for that Bilbao?
Just this one game. But he was poor. No two ways about it. He was poor. I felt like every time he got the ball, it was like a really poor first touch. The ball was kind of bouncing off him. Couldn't get the ball under control. There were a couple of moments where, you know, he did look quite threatening, was able to get the ball in the box, but for the most part, it was a really frustrating performance.
Yeah, it wasn't really a goal threat, was he, in this one, unfortunately. Wasn't getting close. Didn't really have too many opportunities to threaten the goal. I would say it wasn't totally his fault that he had a bad game, because I thought there were some moments he was actually making some really good runs and he just wasn't being found, or the pass wasn't good enough. But there was enough opportunities where he got the ball and he was able to run at his man and, you know, create something, do something. And he failed on a few times as well. His touch was off, giving the ball away. It was a frustrating game. The moves always seemed to slow down when it came to him. There was a few times we were flowing, it was good. And then he went to Johnson, it just slowed down. And yeah, it was frustrating.
Mikey Moore on the other side, we both give him a 6. And yeah, I thought he was struggling for the opening half an hour of the game. And then the kind of last 15 minutes, he really came alive. You really started to see link-up play with Destiny Udogie on that left-hand side. And there was one moment where he had like 2 or 3 men around him and it was like a nutmeg and he just burst past them all and found his way in the box and put in a ball, I think. And there was another moment as well where, you know, a nice little bit of magic and he just had a shot blocked. But he was having his best moment basically in the last 15 minutes of that first half. And I was saying to Sim on the watch long, it's a shame that he's going to go off now because he's really starting to get into the groove.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened, unfortunately, for him. I think, again, some positives, and I think again, he's another position he's going to have to get adjusted to, because obviously under Ange, he was playing much more of a touchline winger. And on this one, if you will see, and I'll show you in the tactical breakdown, very much more like a little number 10 in the pocket. That's kind of the position he was playing a lot of the time in this game. And I think that's a position that could suit him, actually, being a bit more central, having players nearer who you can link with. And obviously he still has that dribbling ability, which he showed on that one occasion in the game. But also, I thought the position he was taking up, he was getting the ball on the half turn, just looking for that little pocket in space and exploiting it. Unfortunately, his final ball was just a bit off on the occasions he was getting to the penalty area. But I think, again, some positives from Mikey Moore. Execution, and as well, I think he was out the game for way too long. But I think there was some good stuff there.
Big Dom Solanke, the last of the first half players, 6 all round for Solanke. And yeah, I'm seeing Solanke come under a lot of flack for this game, which I thought he was actually decent. I thought he was a threat for most part. I thought he was putting himself about. I thought he was always on the run and always looking for those Porro balls in behind. Yeah, there might have been a little bit of lack of quality inside the box, but I did think, like, as opposed to what he was like under Ange, where he was always dropping deep and coming to link the play together instead of being a threat in the box. I thought he was doing more of that threat in the box stuff in this game. And yeah, there were times he did come deep on a small amount of occasions, but for the most part, I thought he was a really good physical threat in the box.
Yeah, and didn't have too many kind of shots or chances. I mean, I had that one where Devine plays a good ball into him, but unfortunately kind of just gets the finish wrong. He had that one attempted overhead kick, which ended up being a foul. But he was definitely making more runs on the last line. You could see a lot of Porro and some of the field players were definitely looking for him and going directly to him. And what was good was he was kind of making that run, and we were timing the pass quite well, and he was getting beyond the last defender a couple times without. The problem with Solanke, I feel, he doesn't get his shots off quick enough. He always takes an extra touch or waits a bit too long, and a lot of the times his shots end up getting blocked, which is a bit of frustration. He needs to quicken that up if he's going to make that step up to being an elite striker. I think he's got so much to his game, and I think that hold up play, that strength, first touch, all this kind of stuff, it's going to bring a lot to us, but just needs to work on getting those shots off quicker, and then he's going to make that step up. But I thought, look, I don't think it was a bad performance yesterday.
Yeah. And moving on to the second half, I think a bit like last season's pre-season, the second half the players just came alive, and I think it was more of the same in this first game under Thomas Frank. We're going to start off with Vicario. 6s all round for Big Vic. He did struggle with his playing out the back, and I thought, he hit it out. He hit it out once. So did Kinski, to be fair, but he just didn't have that ball playing ability that we saw that Kinski had in that first half. But what he did do well was make a number of good saves in that second half, which we know that's his bread and butter, and that's what he's really good at. So, I give him credit for that.
Yeah. And there were a couple of good saves. One right at the end from like a 25 yards, a bit of a pile driver. He tipped it wide. And there was one that was kind of deflected, and I think it might be going over anyway, but he tipped over the bar. So he made a couple of decent saves. He just did not look comfortable on the ball, or as comfortable as Kinski, I would say. Didn't really... Kinski seemed like an extra outfield player when then build up. Vicario definitely seemed like you're passing back to the goalkeeper. I think that's the best way I can kind of describe it. There was a few times where he panicked, kind of went up and under, and he was one as well. He just kept it a lot simpler. I felt like when he was clipping it to the fullback, he would sometimes get it there, but the pass was hard to control. It wasn't the best pass to the fullback, and whereas Kinski would get it right into feet and allow them to stride the ball forward. Whereas when Vicario would pass it to Spence or Davis, they would have to take a touch to get under control and then start to move forward there, or with controlling a difficult pass. So something he's going to have to improve. But yeah, I think we know his goalkeeping ability, shot stopping is fantastic.
Jed Spence up next. Him gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. There was one really worrying moment where we thought he gave away a penalty at one stage where he got done defensively, to be honest. I think on 2 occasions in that separate move. The penalty obviously wasn't given. I think he just waved play on. But look, I think it was up and down from Jed Spence. I think there was a few bad moments from a defensive standpoint. Didn't go forward too much, but what he did do, he was like a kind of facilitator for Mohamed Kudus, where there was some really nice link-up play from them, and I think that's a relationship that can really flourish, Mohamed Kudus and Spence, and it was good first sight of it.
Yeah, and that's actually I did mention when we were talking about Porro and Johnson. Didn't seem to be much rapport there, but with Kudus and Spence, it was different. They seemed to be linking up a lot better. It was quite interesting, the dynamics, because Spence was kind of playing the doggy role, and then Davis was playing like the Porro role. So they kind of switched up a bit in the for the profiles in the second half, which obviously you got to do when change your players and stuff like that. And Spence was getting forward quite a bit. Don't think he offered too much in a way of attacking. He did have that one chance, didn't he? He got in on goal with I think Bergvall played the ball in behind, and then he was in on goal after a mistake by the Reading keeper. He should have squared it to Kudus. He didn't, and ended up being saved by the goalkeeper. But I think defensively, by and large, pretty good. He made sure he got that clearance after the Vicario save right at the end. I think got in position well. Yeah, I think he was. I agree with you. He was kind of making the unselfish runs, I would say.
Yeah. Luka Vuskovic up next. He has arrived, people. 9s all round for Luka Vuskovic. What an unbelievable start to his Tottenham debut. First of all, look, the first touch was a bit of a dodgy touch, and you're thinking, all right, this guy's maybe is just a kid playing a man's game, but no, he's not. He's a kid. Well, he's not a kid. He's not. He's a man mountain. He's a man in a kid's. Well, I was about to say a man in a kid's body, but he's in a man's body. So I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But Vuskovic is unbelievable, man. First touch, first meaningful touch. He towering header to lay one on for Will Lancashire, who puts it in the back of the net. The second one was a Harry Kane-esque finish into the far corner. So within 10 minutes of his debut, he's got a goal and an assist to his name. And then he blocks one just in front of Vicario. I think Vicario probably would have got to it, but you got to make sure to get it clear, and that's what he did. And after that, I thought, he dealt with most things coming his way from a defensive standpoint. He looked really strong. He looked like he had a bit of pace on him as well. So I was really happy with what I saw from Luka Vuskovic, and that finish, wow. It was just wow.
Yeah, that was something which I think blew us all away. What a brilliant, brilliant debut from Vuskovic. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype and talk about him ever since we agreed that deal for what there was then, I believe, a 15-year-old, wasn't he? When we got him from, was it Split?
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk about him. Obviously, we didn't know, when you're signing a 15-year-old back 2 years ago, as much as he could be the next best thing, it's all about how he performs when he gets here, and he's had some brilliant loan spells, and unbelievably on his debut, we talk about being a threat, we talk about his goal scoring record, and for him to not only get an assist but score a goal in the fashion he did. And you know what's funny, you look at that goal and how amazing it was. That isn't even the best goal I've ever seen him score. When you've seen that he scored overhead kicks, there's been clips going doing the rounds at the moment, him shooting from the halfway line and scoring goals. This guy has magic in his boots, and this guy is a special talent. And I know people are going to say it's Reading, you're going overboard and things like that, but it's not just based on yesterday that we're saying this. This was only vindication. Well, I wouldn't say it's vindication, but this was only more evidence, I should say, of how special this player is, and it's just kind of mounting to the mountains of evidence that we've seen. Obviously, I posted a picture yesterday of the leap for the corner. How high he gets is incredible. It's like Ronaldo, how high he gets.
To be fair, he was half the way there with his height anyway.
It's madness. He's got an incredible leap on him, and he was towering above that Reading defender. Brilliant flick on as well. And then the finish on his left foot, on the move, first time, just sweeping into the corner. Literally, that's a finish where you would say Kane, that's a good finish from someone like Kane, let alone an 18-year-old centre-back who's making his debut as well after all the, hype and pressure, whatever. It was phenomenal. And I think after that, what impressed me as well is he didn't let those moments get him overexcited. He just kept calm.
He barely celebrated.
Composed.
He was just like,
Well, it is a friendly, to be fair. But
I know, but if you're like a player that's had a move for Spurs, like he's been wearing Spurs shin pads throughout all his loan spells, and you finally get on the pitch, you do that, like, I'd be going mental.
Yeah, well, he ain't a Spurs fan, is he? But I think what's impressed me most is, first of all, his dominance in the air when the ball comes towards him, and he was able to mop up from quite a few mistakes, I have to say, that Van der Ven made. And what I was so impressed with is his ability to calmly use his weaker foot in possession when he's playing out the back. He was obviously he's right-footed, and you could see when there wasn't a pass on his right foot on, he would just calmly put it off to his left foot and pass it out wide to the fullback or wherever he is. He's not scared to use that left foot whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that is something that's really, really positive. And for an 18-year-old to have that kind of composure is phenomenal.
Yeah. And because he can use that left foot so well, like, we're all talking about a potential left side. I know we've brought in Kota Takai, but maybe, Vuskovic and Takai can understudy Van der Ven next season.
I mean, yeah, 100%, because this guy can easily... I think Takai apparently also can use his left foot quite well, but we've seen it already with Vuskovic here, so very exciting.
Next up is Mickey Van der Ven. 6 all round for Mickey. Not the greatest display from Mickey, from his high standards anyway. He was more of the experienced of the back two alongside Vuskovic. But yeah, there were some decent moments, and I think from a defensive standpoint, for the most part, he was all right. But there were a couple of times where he let the ball go in behind him a little bit, and Vuskovic had to mop up for him. But it was just went through most of the game without too much problem, but it was just a few moments.
Yeah, it wasn't his best display. I think he did make a few mistakes. I think by and large he was comfortable and solid, but I did think There are a few times, very un-Van de Ven like. There was one moment where the winger got away from him, and it looked like he put a challenge in, and he got the ball, and he actually missed it, and ended up fouling the winger. I think if that was a Premier League game, he might have been booked for that. There was a couple of moments as well. A long ball comes over the top, and he looks to head it away, and he just gets the header wrong. It goes up in the air, he falls over, and all of a sudden the Reading player picks up the ball, and Vuskovic has to mop up. So, a few moments where definitely, if it was Premier League opposition, might have been punished, and got away with it. Maybe it's rustiness, first game back, all that kind of stuff. But you could say there were a lot of players who didn't suffer from that kind of issue. But yeah, he did. It was a bit sloppy, I felt, Van de Ven. But I think by and large it was okay. It was just a handful of moments.
Yeah. Ben Davis up next, 7s all round from Ben, playing at left back. And yeah, I think he did a decent job for the team. I think on a number of occasions he was there to save a few players' blushes in the box. Really strong from a defensive standpoint. Didn't see him go forward too much, but from what he did do, I thought he did it to a really high standard.
Yeah, I was fairly happy with him. Playing at left back, I thought his passing was good. He played some really nice passes over the top for Sonny, who was, didn't make the most of it, but he was getting good spaces, and Davis was doing really well. I actually thought defensively, a few times there was crosses going to the back post, and he was the one, getting it clear, stepping up, making sure that nothing came of them. I thought you could see him on the pitch, shouting, barking orders, organising the defence, making sure everyone was switched on. Fair play, Davis. It was a good performance.
Lucas Bergvall next, 5s all round for Lucas, and I thought he was really rusty in this game. I think a lot that he was trying wasn't coming off. A lot of the times he was just losing the ball in the middle of the park. His touch seemed off. There were a couple of decent and really nice moments going forward, which you saw. All right, the Lucas Bergvall of old is here, but all in all, his first 45 minutes of pre-season was very rusty, in my opinion.
Yeah, sloppy, giving the ball away, wasn't his confident self. Don't remember too many, you associate Bergvall with him trying things and him being confident, dribbling past players, things like that. Didn't see any of that. There was one moment he had the ball in his own box and gave it away, and we had to mop up that situation. That was a really poor moment from him. He was just very sloppy, really wasn't at it. People quick to remember as well, not only is his first game pre-season, but his first game back from injury as well. He did get injured back end of last season, so he's still obviously getting over that. I don't know exactly how long he's been back from it, but it's his first game since then, so you give him a bit of grace period, but you just have to admit it wasn't a good game from him. That's it.
Bissouma up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Again, I thought it was a bit up and down from Bissouma. From what he was doing well, he was getting the ball in the box, wriggling out of tight situations and spreading the ball really nicely out to the flanks. But then there were a couple of times in the middle of the park where he just was losing it a bit too easily, to be honest. But I was pleasant. I was happy with his performance, to be honest.
I think it was pretty good. I think there were a couple of things which I didn't like. There was one moment I remember he picked the ball up in the middle of the park and he kind of chops past 2 players, gets into the space in the kind of central zone, almost in number 10 area. He's trying to play Son in on goal, a really simple pass, and he just overhits it. And it was just so simple to get right, and he just, again, switches off. And there's also another moment where Reading player is kind of trying to get in down the byline. He takes a touch past him, and he just kind of allows him past him and doesn't even foul him, doesn't challenge him. That was frustrating. But other than those couple of moments, which again is classic Bissouma, switching off, I thought he was actually really good. I thought when he was getting the ball, he was confident, he was turning, he was demanding the ball, he wasn't scared about being pressed, he was popping it off one first time to other players around him as well. So I thought it was actually pretty decent from Bissouma by and large.
Mohamed Kudus, Sim gives him an 8, I gave him a 9. First game, first goal contribution, got an assist for that brilliant goal for Luka Vuskovic. It was nice to see them two linking up on both of their first appearances for Tottenham Hotspur. But I think this guy was an absolute breath of fresh air. When you look at him compared to what we saw from Brennan Johnson out on that right-hand side, it was night and day, to be honest. Brennan Johnson, I thought was a bit scared to take on his man. Mohamed Kudus didn't need a second invitation. He was
scared not to take on
exactly.
His man.
You know what I mean? He was getting the ball, just driving us forward at every opportunity. There was one standout move on the right-hand side with him and Spence, but it was mainly him. But Spence was the kind of facilitator in that role where he just burned past 2 or 3 players in a few separate actions. But yeah, it was just a bit of a sign of things to come, in my opinion, from Mohamed Kudus. I think on the break he's just so dangerous, isn't he? Just picking up the ball. And Reading just couldn't handle him. They just could not handle him. I want to see him be more of a goal threat in certain situations. So I think from a first 45, I think I've overrated him a bit just because it's just like a bit of a fresh air and first game, and I'll rank him more harshly as games to come. But from a first 45, I was absolutely delighted with what I saw.
Yeah, very positive, very positive. I thought also, he was our set piece taker, was taking quite good corners, and he was doing some good stuff there. I thought it was interesting for the first 10 minutes, obviously, where his corner led to the goal and he got an assist. I actually thought he was quite quiet for those first 10 to 15 minutes in general play. Like, we weren't actually getting the ball to him too much, and whether he was figuring out his position, because he was actually taking, what was interesting, he was kind of taking the Mikey Moore role that Moore kind of picked up on the first half, tucking inside in that 10 role. And Son was kind of getting the Johnson role where he was kind of stuck to the touchline a bit. And I think maybe it took a bit of time for Kudus to adjust to that. But once he was getting involved, he was a box of tricks. And it seemed as though every time he got the ball, Reading just either had to foul him or they couldn't stop him. There was obviously the one moment where he linked up with Spence down the line, beating 3 players and bursting into the box. And actually, not only did he burst into the box, but he picked out Donnelly as well, who probably should have done better with his opportunity. So good decision-making. Good decision-making for the assist he got as well. I think maybe even Kudus of the last season, when he picks up the ball there, does he try and go on the outside and shoot and try a low percentage effort or something like that? I really wonder if, how Frank is known for getting their players to kind of play that extra pass and make sure that opportunity is like a higher XG opportunity by playing the extra pass. I wonder if Kudus is really going to benefit from that kind of philosophy and that getting drilled into him. And maybe we're already seeing elements of that, because I thought some of his decision making was decent. Like, picked out his man a couple of times where maybe last season he would have picked the wrong decision, and yesterday he was picking the right decision. I agree with you though. I don't think he had a shot at all or anything like that. So want to see him maybe try get a few more attempts on goal. He's got that ability to just cut inside and shoot, and it's going to be very hard to stop. So once he's got that on lock, it's going to be devastating. But I think from what we saw yesterday, his dribbling was fantastic, and some of his decision making in terms of setting teammates up, really good.
Jamie Donnelly up next in the 10, who came on for Alfie Devine. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. And I think he looked more of a threat than Alfie Devine. I know I've given them the same rating, but in my opinion, it's like Donnelly's like a high 6 and Devine's like a middle to low 6. But I think with Jamie Donnelly, what we saw is his ability, his ball playing ability is much higher, in my opinion, than Alfie Devine. I think Donnelly is, a bit more advanced in terms of where they're at this moment in time. And I thought he was getting himself more involved. He was a threat, could have scored as well. We know as well, with the chance that he had, with the magic that he has in those boots, he's well within him to put it in the back of the net from where he took that shot from. So yeah, a bit disappointed he didn't get that one on target. But yeah, I was happy with Donnelly. I want to see more, and I'm expecting more.
Yeah, I think it was really positive. I think he was a lot more involved than Devine. What I think the big difference between him and Devine is he was making decisions a lot quicker. He was doing one-touch little touches, flicks to Son, getting the ball moving. He wasn't taking a touch and making a decision. He seemed to know what he was going to do before he picked up the ball. That was the big difference between him and Alfie Devine, and that was very much more impressive from Jamie Donnelly. He had that one absolutely wonderful switch of play to Son, which Son should have done better with. And I agree with you. He had that shot which he took on and got deflected. I actually think if you watch it back, he probably should have played Son in. Son was right free there on the left, and if he just lays it in, Son can just stroke home first time instead of taking a shot with 2 defenders ahead of him. So I think probably picked the wrong decision there, but I'm not going to begrudge him too much. We know he's got a good left foot. So I thought really good, really positive actually. Very impressive. I thought he fitted in well, to be honest, into the team. He didn't look out of place at all. And I thought, whereas Devine had his struggles, I thought he was actually looked at home there.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with that. With last but not least, the captain, Son Heung-min. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. It was fairly poor from Sonny, to be honest. he just didn't look right from the get-go. Like, it's not that smiley Sonny which we're accustomed to seeing. He looked really frustrated on the pitch. I thought his shoulders were slumped, head was low. There just seemed to be something off with Sonny in the game yesterday, and it wasn't just how poor he was on the ball. I just felt like there was just something about him that just didn't seem right, to be honest. And I don't know what it was. Is it something to do about his future? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and start talking about that. But from him, in terms of what he produced on the pitch, I mean, he did have moments to run at his fullback and provide some really decent gameplay. But I just felt like, for the most part, he was found wanting, to be honest. I don't think he was dangerous at all.
Yeah, it was not good from Son, I have to say. I hate to say it, because I love Son and I want him to play well every game, but he didn't play well in this game, and then we just got to face the fact every time he did get the ball, he either got tackled or he was forced backwards, which is not what you want from him. I think he got to the byline once, but I think both times he was able to get crosses in, they were both cleared away, although I think one of them led to the corner, which obviously we scored from, but, you know, that's not much to shout about. He was just out of sorts. There was a couple of that Donnelly time he switched the play, plays a beautiful switch to Son, and Son just his touch was off, and the defender steps in and tackles him. He just wasn't able to affect the game as we should. I wonder if maybe he's frustrated because we know that And used him as a touchline winger, and then Frank used him as a touchline winger yesterday. So I wonder if that frustrated him a bit. Does he thinking like, am I doing this again? Am I going to have to do another season of playing this role? Maybe if he's partnered with Johnson, maybe he would be the one in the 10 and Johnson would be the one out wide. So maybe it changes it up a bit. So maybe it's just the fact that he was partnered with Kudus on this occasion that he had to do that role. But I wonder if, you know, we hoped that Frank coming in would mean he wouldn't be doing that role as much, and he found himself back out there again. So I wonder if there was a frustration there.
I don't know, man. Like, it's just not something you associate with Sonny to look like that on the pitch. And it was just a bit hard to watch, to be honest. It really was. And even if it is like 45 minutes as a touchline winger in a preseason friendly, like, you don't expect to see such frustration just because of that. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but let's hope that we see a better and a more happy Sonny next weekend. Now, really, the last but not least is Will Lancashire. 6s all round for Will. Got his goal, which was great. Poacher's effort at the back post. But apart from that, I don't really remember seeing him too much. Yeah. I think he was kind of like invisible throughout the game, apart from in that moment. But look, striker score goals, and he did that.
Definitely, and he took it well. Did well to get in front of his defender and made sure he got the header, good finish. But yeah, he just tried to lead the line. There was a few times we tried to play the ball in behind, but he just wasn't able to get there, or the ball pass wasn't good enough. He saw very little of the ball. I think actually he had 9 touches that whole half. Saw very little. Which sometimes a strike that happens with a striker if they're not, physically strong enough to dominate their opponents and stuff like that.
He is physical though, like he is quite big and physical.
Yeah, but he just wasn't able to dominate them, or he wasn't getting the service, or he kind of struggled to really get involved other than the goal.
Yeah. But look, that is it. That is your player ratings. 22 players rated. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Put your ratings in the comment section below. And we are going to move on to the last segment of the show. But we do have a super chat from Malware. And Malware says, forget Morgan Gibbs-White. Just shut down the transfer window. We have Vuskovic now. He's here. He's there. He's everywhere. And could Vuskovic be the backup 9?
Backup 9, backup 10, backup 6. Put him anywhere, mate. And what can't the guy do?
I guarantee you there's going to be moments this season, if Vuskovic stays around, that we need a goal in the last 10 minutes and we want to throw someone else up front. You know how Romero used to go up front last season? It's going to be him.
Yeah. You won't even need to, just batter it in from 30 yards. It's astonishing the talent he has, and he's got incredible ball striking as well. If you actually look at some of the shots he was taking for Westerlo, I remember there was one that really took my eye. He takes the ball from 30 yards out. He didn't score it, but he just batters it from 30 yards. It's like a dipping effort, which like the keeper was forced to like tip over the bar. And I was like, who is this guy? That was like a De Bruyne shot or something I'm watching. It was like, this guy has serious technique in his boots. And then then I'm seeing this goal yesterday. He just nestles it into the like. Maybe he should be a striker. Not even joking. The way the guy can strike a ball is madness. It's crazy. Why is he so intent on defending? Why does he love defending so much? Go up front, mate, with that ball striking ability. It's crazy.
Exactly. Just sell Richarlison and put him as the
Put
backup.
Vuskovic there.
All right, look, we're going to move on to the last segment, and we are going to have a deeper look into the first game under Thomas Frank, and see the differences that we have noted and the tactical positions that we've noticed.
Yeah, so there's obviously been a lot of theories, how we're going to set up under Frank and things like that. So it was very interesting to get a little insight yesterday in our first game, what he's going to try and do at Tottenham, what the different things he's going to implement, and how we're going to set up, how we're going to kind of provide for the team. So first of all, I was looking at some of the off-the-ball stuff, and what I noticed is obviously, under Ange, by and large, we were doing a very high press pretty much in all phases, really, always trying to nick the ball off the opponents, always trying to pressure them and stuff like that. What I noticed here, there was a couple of phases to the press under Frank. When if you bring on the first image, so this is when he's just lining up. So when Reading have the ball kind of in the middle of the park, we kind of implemented a very squeezed, compact kind of mid-block. So you can see our players aren't going past halfway line, but you can see the defence, the line at the back is kind of squeezed up a bit. It's obviously not low, but they're squeezing it. It's kind of not a massive gap between the front line and the defence.
Yeah.
And this was like a mid-block that we were kind of implementing when Reading kind of had the ball near the halfway line, and when they were forcing them either into long balls, because you wouldn't want to kind of play a pass into the middle there when it's quite compact. So forcing them, as you can see, with balls over the top, and then obviously trying to catch them offside. But when Reading had the ball of the keeper, all of a sudden it's a high press. You get Solanke, as you can see, he's curving his run, he's pressing high, and all of a sudden it's a much higher press, and there's a lot more intense press. When they're going back to the keeper, and obviously we're going to force him long or force him to try and play a short pass and make a mistake. Actually, and this actually does make a mistake. He passed it straight to a dog. He was off screen. So different phases of the press. You can see again, another example. They've got the ball in the middle of the park, mid-block again. And we set up in a 4-4-2 when we're pressing in this mid-block. You see Mikey Moore, Bentancur. You see Devine goes up alongside Solanke. Again, the defense is kind of high-ish, not high, but it's not like a low block. But the strikers and the striker and Devine not going over the halfway line. Another mid-block.
It's going to make it so difficult for teams to play through us when it's like that. Where Ange, it felt like one ball.
Well, if it was as Ange, all the Solanke and Devine would be pushed up all the way to the defense.
But it felt like with Ange, it's just like one ball. And that's it. The other team could be through on goal, where this is going to be a completely different kettle of fish.
Well, to be fair, I would say under Ange in the Europa League run, we were implementing a bit more of this.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about Ange in general.
I know. I agree. I do agree. I'm saying if this was Ange, how he implemented it, the defense would be much higher. Even if the midfield is there, defense would be much higher. The Devine and Solanke would be pushed onto the other defenders, and there would be a lot more space in behind. But right now, you can see there's a bit of mid-block when their midfielder or centre-back has the ball near the halfway line. You can see Solanke and Devine not going over the halfway line. And again, when they have the ball deeper, high press again. You see that's Johnson coming over. Solanke's got the defender. You got Devine covering the other defender. Man-to-man, a lot higher. So we're going to be using this hybrid pressing, I think. We're going to be seeing a lot more mid-block, a lot more. But doesn't mean we're not going to be high pressing. We're going to be pressing high when it demands, but looks like we're going to be switching up that pressing structure, which is obviously a lot different.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is literally how Brentford played last season.
Yeah.
They pressed high up the pitch. They used the mid-block in that phase of play as well. So it is very interesting that exactly the tactical formation and layout that we saw yesterday is very similar to what we saw from Brentford last season. We have been saying, he's going to, play to the strengths of his players and tweak tactical situations accordingly. But I guess this is only a first 45 minutes, so it's only a very small sample size.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's had 1 week in training. So
with all of them,
so he's not exactly going to be able to implement a style which suits everyone straight away. He's got to kind of do something at the beginning, isn't it? And this is what he's gone with. Doesn't mean this is how he's going to go come the beginning of the season, he might come up with a different formation, something different. But right now, obviously, this is how he played with Brentford, and it's just interesting to see. Maybe this will work with the players we got. So that's kind of the pressing stuff. If we go to the kind of in possession stuff, this is kind of how we kind of building up when we're kind of settled in possession. So what you can see here, kind of building up with a three. You see Porro deep, Romero's on the ball in the centre, Danso there. You've got a double pivot, Bentancur and Sarr next to each other in the midfield. What you see is Moore tucked in. You've got Devine kind of floating. Johnson far on as a touchline winger. And off screen, which I'll bring on the next screenshot, you actually have a Doggy there on the left. So that when we're on the ball, so Moore picks up the ball in the pocket. And as you can see here, Doggy's wide. Johnson's wide on the far side. You've got kind of Moore and Devine as two number 10s with Bentancur and Sarr kind of behind them protecting. So it's kind of like a 3-2-4-1 when we're in possession, which is quite interesting. So I've got a little. I've used the tactical board. I've got a little graphic. I can show you how it kind of switches. So as you can see, kind of here, this is how obviously the formation we start with.
Yeah.
So this is how it kind of molds when we're in possession like that. Bit higher. So as you can see, it starts with a 4-2-3-1, but it kind of Doggy kind of goes out wide, Moore tucks inside, and then you got Moore alongside Devine, Solanke in front, Johnson out wide. So that's kind of how we've been setting up yesterday.
And I like that because we've still got
very similar to when we had Jose, if you remember.
It is from a purely positional sense.
Yeah.
It is.
Like hybrid on off the ball thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we had what was it, Reguilon and Doherty? Was it Reguilon and Doherty?
Doherty or Davis actually. It was
Davis.
Neil Davis. Well, Reguilon as well, but Doherty would go high and Davis would tuck in as a third centre back.
Yeah, so I actually like that. I like that aspect. I think that it gives us numbers forward where we're going to be a threat going forward, and I think it can play to a lot of players. Like Mikey Moore in that position, I think that's where he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Son, if he was on the left-hand side, that's where he wants to be as well. I question whether Johnson wants to be there on the right-hand side. But anyway, what I'm saying is that when you're looking at it from an attacking phase, and I think it looks really exciting because you've got numbers in the attack, but then again, when you compare it to what Ange did first and foremost, I think you'd have so many players up there that just one ball over the top and that's it. You're pretty much done if you lose the ball in that phase. Whereas this time, if you lose the ball, you've got so much protection, you should be able to recycle it.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we mold. So we kind of have like 5 players in that attack there with 2 midfielders kind of as well on top of that, protecting them if anything happens with the double pivot there. So you can see there, Doggy was out wide. There you go, Moore kind of in the pocket with next to Devine, Solanke ahead of him, Johnson coming in behind. What was interesting, I felt so that was when we were building up from the defence. But when midfielders had a little bit of space and time on the ball, very often they're looking for that ball over the top. So Johnson all of a sudden comes in off the touchline and he's looking for that run in behind. And unfortunately on this occasion, Sarr, his pass was a bit off. He didn't quite find it. But Johnson was looking for that run in behind. As you can see there, he's always on it. When midfielders had a little bit of space, they would look up, look for that pass behind. There's another example here. Bentancur, little bit of space. He's looking for Johnson over the top. And so this is kind of a reason why I feel like we do need an elite passer. Because if we're going to have a midfielder there who's always going to... Because I can't remember too often when we had Ange, we would be looking for that balls over the top quite often. But now, if we're going to have a midfielder... If we're going to have kind of a structure in our midfield where if we have a little bit of time and space in the middle of the park, we look for those balls over the top. Unfortunately, Bentancur and Sarr weren't really able to do it, to be honest. The only guy who did it was Romero. He was able to pull off one to Johnson. Johnson didn't make the most of it. But Bentancur and Sarr, they tried it 2 or 3 times. It didn't come off. So if we had an elite passer there, I think all of a sudden, because we're clearly looking for those moments to get in behind. And we're looking on the edge. You can see as well, Devine making that run as well over there. And so Johnson, is always going to be on his bike when there's space.
So who did that role in the Brentford team?
Like Janelt.
Because, you'd say they're not like proper elite passes, and they were still doing it to a good standard.
I mean, good enough for Brentford.
Yeah. But I mean, Brentford scored a hell of a lot of goals. Well, I guess I don't know how many from that exact position. But look, I do tend to agree with you. But also, it goes back to what I was saying before. First 45 minutes, we don't know how this is going to develop. But if you're looking at this specific structure, this setup, and these moments, then yeah, I do agree with you.
Yeah, that's the problem. Unless it's just a one-off game, maybe Bentancur, Sarr, or even maybe Bergvall can play that role and his passing could do it. Matt Maddison. We'll have to wait and see. He'll obviously adjust it to our strengths. But yeah, those are things that maybe we could have done better, pulling off those passes when we had those moments. One thing also definitely noticed, when Porro got over here to these areas, always swing it in early, every time. He wasn't waiting to get to like the byline here or anything. Once he was getting to this kind of area, he was always looking for Solanke. Solanke was kind of on the move all the time. Whereas what I found on the other side, do I have a screenshot for it? No, I don't. When a doggy was getting to there, he was looking to drive to the byline. Yeah. He was looking to get to the box and get pullbacks. Whereas Porro wasn't interested in that. He was interested in getting here and whipping it in early and using his quality.
That's exactly what should be done with Pedro Porro. When you've got someone of that ability to cross, like Pedro Porro, one of the best in the league from that position, in my opinion. Now Trent's gone even more so. This is something that we've been saying all of last season. Why is he not getting more crosses in the box? Why is he not crossing early? We've got someone that has got really good aerial ability, and Dom Solanke that's waiting for it in the box, as well as Pedro Porro, who's got the crossing ability that he has. This is a lot of what Trent used to do for Liverpool. He used to get in those areas and cross as soon as he can to get the ball in the box. And I think I think we will carry on with this kind of model, and it's going to reap the benefits for us massively.
I think Porro's forward here, so I think Bentancur is off screen. I think he's kind of dropped back. But you can see here, Moore's tucked in again, Devine tucked in, 2 number 10s. Solanke's in, I think the doggy's off screen, but he's out on the far left here. So that's clearly kind of the structure they're looking for. Second half, it was quite different though. The structure wasn't different, but just personnel. So as you can see here, this is kind of the setup we had in the second half. Vuskovic, Van der Ven and Davis were the back three we build up. Basuma, Bergvall in the double pivot, with Son as the kind of touchline wing on the left. Donnelly and Kudus were the number 10s, and Lancashire up front, and on the right, Spence was playing that a doggy role. So there's another example here. You can see the back three, double pivot, Basuma, Bergvall, Kudus there as a number 10, Spence holding the width, Kudus and Donnelly number 10s, Son on out wide, and Lancashire up front.
And you know what as well, like with the positions that Kudus was taken up on the pitch with that kind of inside right wing or a right forward, whatever way you want to call it, inside 10, that role would complement Kulusevski so well. Kulusevski would be brilliant in that role.
And Kudus, I think it suits Kudus a lot.
Kudus as well, but I'm just saying because Kulusevski, we haven't seen him.
I agree.
Under Frank.
I agree. I think it's going to be perfect for him.
Yeah.
But being basically a winger who basically when you're settled in possession is a number 10. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. I think Decky is going to be licking his lips at that. And you got Donnelly, who was able to just move around, but again, it's a second number 10. So again, in settled possession, it's like a 3-2-4-1, 2 number 10s. So again, Davis was the one this time playing that third centre back, which I think that's a role that suits him, to be honest. If that was, if we were to keep him, that's a role that suits him as well. I think that's a role that suits Spence, getting high and wide, and using his physical traits. I think Bergvall, Basuma. It's going to be interesting to see how we adjust. The only one I don't think it suits that much is Sonny up here, to be honest.
But do you not think it could suit Sonny if he was one of the more tucked in ones?
Yeah, I think so. I think that could suit him getting closer to goal and stuff.
What wingers do we have that actually suit playing the wide winger role? I don't know if we've got any.
Yeah, that's the question. We don't really have too many touchline wingers. I think in a weird way, if Kudus was to play on the left, it could suit him a bit, just go down the line and get crosses in, maybe, but I don't think he would want to do that too much. Odebear, maybe.
Even him, you still, with his dribbling ability, he could play on the outside, taking on men and getting crosses in the box, but as well, he would also be really good driving through the centre.
But to be fair, I don't think Johnson would suit the number 10 role, kind of number 10. So I think, but would he suit the out wide role either? So what does he suit?
I think he suits more of a central role, like a striker role.
Maybe in this system. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he profiles each guy. But yeah, I think that's all the screenshots I have. But that's kind of a first look of how Frank's going to set up the kind of different structures he's going for, and it's going to be interesting. Now we know kind of the profiles he wants, or that's what we've got at the moment. Maybe we theorize more what he's going to want in the market and things like that, because I think that kind of setup is going to be very interesting. Yeah,
and once he needs to know the players a lot more and their traits and everything like that, and I think you will start to see the tactical evolution throughout pre-season. So this is just the first 45 minutes, so it's hard to read too much into it, because it just, at this moment in time, it just does look like a carbon copy of what he was doing at Brentford. But I do feel like as the games progress, you'll see more tactical things thrown in here, there, and everywhere. So I'm very much looking forward to see how this pre-season progresses.
Yeah, and I'm sure other pre-seasons maybe we'll try different formations. Maybe one game we'll play a back three in preparation for other games. So that's the formation and setup he did for this game. We'll see how that progresses, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, it's hard to make too many sweeping judgments when you're playing against like the likes of Reading and Luton from League One. But when you start to see us against Arsenal at the end of this month, and Newcastle at the start of next month, Bayern Munich coming after that, then I think you'll start to see maybe what we're going to see at the first game at PSG.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the first look at the first look at Frank Ball. Let us know in the comment section below what you noticed on that pitch yesterday from a tactical perspective. But that is it from us today. I want to thank you all for joining the live stream today. We'll see you all tomorrow for some more Tottenham content. But like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.